What is up, guys? This is O, and I'm sitting here with JP, Wilson, and Cam, and we are the Shepherds of Men. You know, we always start these episodes off with a little bit of a gut check. You know, you're not gonna agree with everything we say, and that's perfectly okay. You know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. All we ask is that you tolerate ours. You don't necessarily have to accept it as your own. We talk a lot of about a lot of mindset, principle-based topics. And, you know, we love feedback, man. So you be sure to reach out on our socials, Facebook, Instagram. Check us out always on Spotify, SoundCloud, and shoot us some feedback. If there's some things you guys want us to talk about or you want to hear more about or hear things from our point of view, feel free to shoot us a direct message, or some of you guys know us in real life, shoot us a text message. We love the feedback and we love the support you guys have been giving us so far. So, but gentlemen, I wanted to talk about accountability today. Something that's been on my heart pretty heavy just in the last couple of weeks, really. But it really hit me just this past week. Really, and to more focus, it's such a broad topic. I want to kind of zoom in on that a little bit and talk about choosing success over the suck, right? I think we all know, and I kind of talked to you guys about this through the week, some challenges that I've been met with my team and at my JOB. And I talked about, you know, the two... Just to keep it simple, stupid, KISS method of success would be there's two steps to every success, and no matter what you want to do, even if it's flipping burgers, how to be good at anything, and that's, you know, step one, stop sucking, right? And just to clarify on that, so I don't hurt any feelings, you figure out what you're not doing that's needed to succeed. I think everyone knows that deep down. Like, if you decided that you wanted to get in better shape this year and you don't go to the gym, you know what you need to do to hit your goals as far as a physique or whatever that you're looking for, right? So stop sucking, figure out what you need to be doing. This step two is choosing success, right? Choosing to be better. Once you figure out what you need to be doing or what you should be doing to achieve your goals, start doing it. Have the discipline to start doing it. Whether that's writing down or whatever you have to see. For me, it's visually seeing what needs to be done, or a to-do list throughout the day. That helps me stay disciplined, and it helps my self-image as well, because I'm able to check off the things that I'm doing throughout the day or cross them off, and I know I'm achieving something, I'm getting shit done. And when I look back at the end of the day and I see a to-do list all chopped off, I feel like, you know, you feel like $1 million because you're like, I kicked ass today. You know, today did not suck, and I earned that pillow. You know, what are some things, I guess, that, you know, what does accountability mean to you guys at that level?
Ownership, to me personally. Yeah. I believe if I know personal responsibility was something that you wanted to cover whenever you mentioned this episode. So for me personally, I think it's ownership. And by ownership, I mean you are not a victim in any aspect of your life. If you completely embody the personal responsibility, in my eyes, you take responsibility for everything. There is zero victim mentality, and when things happen to you take ownership of it, because I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you complain about stuff or you try to point the finger at somebody else, you lose control. Mm-hmm. You no longer have responsibility, so you lose control of the situation. And that's something, man, if you can learn that, it's really freeing. And it seems so counterintuitive, right? So if you come out and you say, well, I'm going to own every aspect of my life. And when something happens, like I got soaking wet because when I was bringing the groceries out, it was raining. I don't have control over the rain, but I have control about the fact that I went to the grocery store when it was going to rain.
Yeah, and your attitude, too, of, you know, you're not bitching about the fact that I got wet getting groceries. Your attitude should just be like, it's awesome, man. I can go buy groceries.
Yeah, and then next time, before I go get groceries, maybe I look at the weather. Yeah. Maybe I learn from it. So in my eyes, that's where personal responsibility comes from. I'm always owning every aspect of my life, and by owning it, I mean like legitimately taking responsibility, because I see people all the time going, well, it wasn't my fault. That is the most sickening thing in the world to hear. Yeah. It wasn't my fault. Yep. It wasn't my fault. I'm like, yes, it was. Everything is your fault. And when everything becomes your fault, then you start to become free, because you have the power to change it if it's your fault. If it's not your fault and it's somebody else's fault and things are happening to you, you're not happening to them. Right. So in my mind, that's kind of my brief.
Well, I think, and that's the society we live in too, is that it's always somebody else's fault. It's always because of them or because of something else or something out of my control. And that's why we have this just, you know, limp-wristed, weak mentality that we have, not just in men, but in people, you know. Sure. And it's because nobody is taking ownership. Nobody's stepping up and saying, you know what, maybe I should be responsible for how much money I have in my bank account. Maybe I should be responsible for what my marriage is like. Maybe I should be responsible if my kids suck or not. And there's certain things you're just not going to be able to determine. I think, let's just be real. There could be a child that's just like a prodigal son. It might just happen, and it may not be anything that you did, but you can take ownership of the fact that you have responsibility there. You're not just throwing that up. Yeah. But it's true, and you see it. It runs rampant, and I don't really do news. I don't watch the news.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch a lot of stuff that other people watch because it's really just terrible entertainment. I don't know why you're entertained by that nonsense, but
it is entertainment. It's reality TV. Now it's become reality
non-reality.
TV. Well, they used to tell you the news and then let you make up your mind about it. Now they tell you what you should think.
Right. Yeah, they make up your mind for you.
You notice that? That's where the
But when you have a society of people that need somebody to tell them how to think, then
that's a good point.
That's why everybody's listening.
That's a good
right.
point.
So, and I think that's why we're here, is because we want to make sure that it's that different mentality. It's like, you need to learn how to think for yourself, right? Or you need to get around people that know how to think the right way and take mentorship and counsel from them, as opposed to, what should I do next?
Yeah.
Right. I was about to say any channel. It doesn't really matter. They all do it. So it's not a right side or left side. It's just reality.
No, yeah. You want to know where you could make some serious cash? Do a news channel that's actually in the middle. Like and that's what you advertise. Like, we are dead center in the middle. We're not
you do
left,
like positive
we're not
stories.
Right. We're actually going to tell you what happened.
Yeah, here's the news.
And then let you figure something out for yourself.
What do you call this station? The news station.
Yeah. C-SPAN.
Stuff that actually happens.
There's a camera in the room.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, personal responsibility for me, it's definitely needed. I think people should take personal responsibility of their own lives. And like what you said, JP, ownership is vital. And a lot of people just, like you said, give that ownership away. It's like, not me. No. And if they took in everything that you do, whether it's your fault or not, you should take ownership of it, because if you're involved, somehow something slipped and you allowed it to slip on your watch. Because if you know that you're responsible to do X, Y, Z, and it doesn't get done because of another teammate, that's on you too, because you didn't intervene when you needed to tell that teammate, hey, you're not doing your job. Or on the flip side of that, you go and outperform your teammate to make up his lack thereof. In that analogy, because I'm in sales too. So, the other thing too is, if we talked about a couple of little, like, hey, I have a checklist, I have this as a personal responsibility. Whatever that is for you, you need to figure out how to keep you accountable. What I use is my phone. My phone tells me everything I need to know. And if I'm supposed to be somewhere at a certain time, it tells me that I need to be there. And if I don't,
but why does it tell you that?
Because I don't have the discipline.
Because you took responsibility to put it in your phone.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I have that because
ownership.
Yeah, I didn't relinquish. I use it as a tool. Use my tool to help me. But if I didn't,
tells me everywhere to be.
Yeah,
Alexa, where should I go today?
Yeah, for real. So
Alexa, tell me a joke.
If I didn't have that tool, though, outside of that, being real to everybody is like, I would be accountable for what I say I was going to do, because I would be forgetful, or I wouldn't have my life organized. It's just like if somebody had a calendar and they kept up with it. You got to put that stuff down. That's important. But biggest thing is if you say you're going to do something, you freaking do it. And that's personal.
A novel idea.
Yeah, no, that's your personal responsibility.
I will say this about you though, Wilson. That's the truth. And I appreciate you for just owning it. And because I've known you for a long time, and it's so funny to me because we'll be like, having a cookout or whatever. And he's like, I'm 5 minutes away. Like, great, can you grab some ice? He's like, yeah, hold on, let me put that in my calendar. And he will. It's like, I'm going to put a reminder to get some ice in a minute and a half when I go by the store. But hey, the truth is you could not do that and forget it, So, just own it, whatever. Get the ego out of the way.
There in the beginning when we first met, I was totally like that. Like, yeah. I'm just in my own little world, like, just floating around and enjoying myself. I don't know. It was weird, but I had a lot of growth.
It was weird, I was very spontaneous.
Well, even from my perspective and coming into this is you're told what to do your entire life. So personal responsibility on your own, it's just like, okay, you told me to do this. Okay, I'm going to go do it. Okay. Yeah. But then when you get out on your own, you're like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
Because you have nobody telling you what to do other than your bill collectors and saying, hey, your bill's due. Remember you signed this contract? Yeah. That's like the only thing that really gives you any kind of direction, unless you have somebody who's like a mentor or somebody who's like, hey, this is your next steps too. whatever you're looking to accomplish.
Right. And I think that's what's wrong with society today is that they don't have that counsel.
Yeah.
You know, when we grow up, we've
100%.
got 12 to, and if you're becoming a doctor, maybe 18 to 20 years of school of here's where you need to be, here's what you're going to be doing from this time to this time. And we have that from a work perspective, but from a counsel perspective, or what we would call an accountability buddy, someone to hold you accountable.
Wow, catchy. Another T-shirt.
Then, right.
Accountability buddy.
So
I'm with stupid.
It's like I almost don't want to Google that. I'm afraid what
It's
might
like,
come up.
ask him. He's my responsibility.
He's my accountability buddy.
Yeah,
Accountability buddy.
yeah. But you know, when I reached out, we talked about in the very beginning, I reached out to you and Wilson about holding
Yeah.
me accountable to make sure I did certain things before I went into my new role.
You can take ownership in that.
And right. So
Yeah.
part of it is taking ownership in what you want to achieve. And the other part is maybe have someone that you can trust that's not going to sugarcoat things for you or be Willy Wonka, as I say, and hold you accountable to what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's where a lot of people miss it. I think that there wouldn't be overcrowded gyms in the first part of the year if people had people that held them accountable. And I think the people who stay in the gym all year long or actually do hit their fitness goals have people that hold them accountable.
For sure, yeah.
Well, people think they want that. People think they want accountability until they get they're like,
they're
oh
held.
yeah, I need somebody to hold me accountable for stuff, and then when they get it, now all of a sudden,
Oh,
that
you got
glass
guys
house
like-
mentality,
Yeah,
and it starts
yeah.
to become like, oh shit, what I do?
You got guys like me coming in there like, all right, guys, time to stop sucking.
Yeah.
And then they get on their feels about it. You know, I'm a little more raw about things, but that's the only way I know how to be.
pad things a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
soften
definitely.
them up,
Yeah,
a little powdered
Yeah,
sugar
such
on
great
them.
I'm learning that I need to pad things a little bit.
Well, maybe you should just embrace the emojis.
I have
Yes.
to.
Just you embrace the emojis.
And
Like,
I
if
literally
you say
stand
something
for
that's meant to be
emotions.
funny, just put the little laughy face.
Right, or the kiss face.
Yeah, because punctuation and emojis are really important. Like
Way more important than live
well,
conversations.
I mean, okay, so for instance, help jack off the horse. Okay, so you can take that two different ways, right? So help jack off the horse, and you dirty-minded fools. There's a comma in there. Help
Right.
jack off of the horse.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
Is the guy's name is Jack? You got to get him off the horse. I don't know what the hell you guys were thinking about, but punctuation is important. So your delivery,
Right.
that's free and doesn't have anything to do with
Especially if
what we're
you're-
talking
you put the
If
horse
you're
face
doing-
emoji on there, though?
Yeah. Well, and that's another problem. That's so funny.
With the kissy face emoji.
Oh, man.
Oh my god.
And then the water. The
Yeah.
little
Oh, my
freeze-
gosh. Okay, so,
I'm so
all right.
sorry. I'm so
Y'all
sorry.
can
We're
just
off track.
skip 30 seconds on here, 10, or just leave Wilson. We'll cut Wilson's mic off here in a minute.
Hey, y'all said eggplant.
Yeah, anyways. So, but one thing I want to add in here, interject here before we get too far off topic, is the accountability thing is I think it's a mentality of, because I'm sitting here thinking like, yes, you should have somebody that will hold you accountable. You should have a mentor or somebody you're in counsel with or a band of brothers or something like that that can kind of keep you in check in the proper ways, and it's a little different for everybody, their personality, but also taking full responsibility of just being accountable to yourself and being accountable to your word. We've done, your word matters. That episode, we talked a lot about that. But so I think you should approach it with a mentality of it's on me, but then be mature enough and suppress your ego enough to where you can also hold yourself accountable to somebody else. So it's like own it, but don't be afraid to say, hey, dude, help me out. Keep me in check.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to let that mindset shift, right? I mean, when you're setting goals, you're fired up out of your mind because you're like, I'm setting these goals. That's what I'm gonna achieve. And then you go through a week, and maybe you're not hitting the goal, or you're not achieving. When you break down your goal in those weekly settings, and you're like, man, I'm slacking this week. I think it's easy to fall into that negative mindset. But reaching out to your accountability buddy, your accountable friend, or whatever, I think can help, if it's the right person, can help put you back on track and get you fired up again to make you realize, look, this is where you said you wanted to go, man. We can still do this. We got plenty of fucking time left. Quit being a bitch about it.
And that's a big
right?
deal
Pull it in.
of what you just said is if you are the accountability buddy, and you're the person that somebody has asked you to keep them accountable, that doesn't mean you have power over them and you need to be a dick. It just means
You have
you need
responsibility.
to, right. You have a responsibility, and you should do it. If you see something, you should call it out. But you also need to remind them why they asked you to do it.
Right.
Like, remember what you wanted to accomplish. Remember why you asked me to keep you accountable to this. Remember your goals. Like, I'm seeing something, a different perspective than you that's keeping you from it. So I'm telling you. And I'm telling you because I love you or I care about you or I have, best interest for you or whatever. So
And that's huge. When someone puts that trust in you to be that person in their life or be that on the way to their goals, you're essentially helping that person choose success. Right? You're and when they call you, it's easy to tell people what not to do. When they call you, be fired up. You know, even if you're having a rough day, keep yourself fired up, man. Stay on top. Like you just snorted a line of Frosted Flakes or Fruit Loops, like Cameron said a while back. Not even chopped up, whole Fruit Loops. Yeah, not chopped up, whole ass freaking Fruit Loops.
Dude, you gotta have a deviated septum to pass those.
Hey, break your nose early in life.
Yeah, you'll have that.
So much easier. I breathe great ever since I broke my nose.
On one side.
Yeah, on one side. So I like what you said though about throughout the week. You know, like you may have some goals and stuff like that. Because one of the quotes that I've always told myself is, "You are what you tolerate." So, and what happens is, as your goal is, let's say, you know, 5, I don't know, whatever. We'll just do running since it's easy. You know, 3 miles a day, you know, that you're going to run 3 miles a day. Well, the first day you run 3 miles, second day you run 2.5 miles, then you run 2 miles. You start to tolerate a lesser goal and you start to become lesser because of that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, one of those things is like you, and I'm glad that you said that, because ultimately what you tolerate is what you'll become.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's why you need that external. And some people take personal responsibility to a whole new level. If you haven't read Extreme Ownership, I would recommend that going. And I might have stole your thunder on that. Probably did. But that's a great book that really embodies what you want to talk about in this. If you want to do some deeper reading and stuff, but I think some people have learned how to take full responsibility of their life altogether. Most people haven't. There's a lot of people that have done a good job of it, but they need that external. Hey man, you said you were going to run 3 miles and you ran 2.5. Like don't settle for that. Don't tolerate that, because now all of a sudden you're a 2 mile runner, not a 3 mile runner, you know, or whatever it may be. But you know, you start to tolerate things lesser and lesser as you go on. If you let yourself, and if you have somebody on the outside going, it's not what you said.
And just remember too, if you ask somebody to speak into you, then it's okay for you to not be happy with them when they do it. Sure. I mean, that's just a normal. But you're probably just not happy with yourself because they're just calling out what you already know. They're just vocalizing it and saying, hey, you're not doing what you said. Right. You could be like, oh, you jerk. And I've been in that position. I've had strong mentorship in my life where I asked somebody, like I flat out told them, I said, my family's financial future and our happiness and our, you know, what we have, our goals for our life are way more important than whether or not I like you. So if you can speak into me the way that I need to be getting better, I don't care. I don't need to be your best friend. Right. Now, there was times when I was like, man, I wish I hadn't said that, you know, because there'd be some really straightforward conversations and you're getting all, you know, I'd be getting all pissy about, I can't believe he freaking said that, you know, and then the next day you're like, man, I'm so glad he told me. You're like, I'm so glad he's man enough to tell me.
And that's how you develop mental maturity too. You start to take those situations where you wanted to rip his head off, like, dude, fuck you, man. Yeah. Like, that's like, why would you say some stuff like that to me? And then the next day you realize, you know what? He was right. Yeah. And I need to act on that. And as that continues to happen, the progression, you start to become more mentally mature so you can handle that kind of stuff. Somebody can come up that you respect and say, dude, you're screwing up. Like, you don't need to do that. And you don't need to go buy that new car or whatever. Like, tell me what I need to do.
And if they have a platform that you respect, or they've made deposits into your life, then they can make withdrawals like that. Yeah. Now, if you just go up and say that to somebody that you don't know, or you don't have any, like if you don't have fruit on the tree in your life in that area, then you probably shouldn't be speaking anything to anybody, right? You need to have fruit before you're speaking into somebody's life. So don't let somebody come like, I want you to hold me accountable to this and this and this. Like, take a second and go, I don't know if I need to be the one doing that, you know? Like, right. I mean, there's certain areas of my life, like, well, let's put it this way. I didn't go to broke people to find out how to be wealthy. Right. I mean, just to use one, why would you? They don't know how to do it, right? So, but there's certain people out there that I've seen that are like not at great positions financially. They're trying to counsel people on what they should be doing in that world. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, so if you are going to hold yourself accountable to somebody, make sure that they have fruit on the tree.
That's like blind people leading the blind. Yeah. You know?
Well, you don't go to a guy who went through several divorces and ask him for marriage.
Yeah, how do you stay married?
No, you don't.
Or how do you raise kids? I noticed you have a dog. Yeah. Like, it's not the same. I don't care. No, like, every listener hear this. It's not the same. I don't care how many dogs you have and how much you love them. It's not the same.
Shepherds are pretty close. Shepherds are pretty close.
Golden retrievers are too.
Mine doesn't disagree. You have never changed your golden retriever's diaper ever.
Nope.
You
but
could,
I have
though, if you put diapers on.
I have cleaned his messes up.
Not the same.
Technically,
but you know, it's funny though, because like what you just said seems so blatantly obvious. Don't go to a broke person about financial advice. It's so
Everybody
blatantly
does it.
obvious, but for some ungodly reason, that's what we do.
Yep.
And guess who the first people to give you advice are?
Parents.
The ones that don't have any freaking money.
Nope.
Oh, you don't want to spend money on that. Like I'm telling you, we've got investments going on. We've got different things that we're putting money into and stuff, just smart investments. And some of the first people, and some of it's family, like we said, they mean well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But the last thing I need you to do is, like, you're living in a trailer. You don't have a dime to your name. Like, you don't even get a tax return because all your money's off the books and you're working off of cash on everything that you're doing. And you want to come give me financial advice, and you're the first one to do it. Oh, you don't need to put that much money into that kind of stuff. Well, okay. How about we, if I need to know how to do something that you're good at, I'll come and ask for your opinion.
Right.
Right.
You
And
know?
I'm glad you did mention that, because I was going to say the same thing, in the sense of, like, if you're going to get someone to speak life into you, you need to check the fruit on their tree. Or if it's like, for your analogy of running, if you need to run 3 miles and somebody for sure is running 10 miles a day every single day, that's the person you want to reach out to say, hey, can you hold me accountable to reach my goal of 3 miles? And then that person's going to stretch you. But also, a caveat to that is that you are also going to stretch that person that you're asking for that accountability to. Because if that person's doing the same thing that you're doing in that field, they're going to feel more led to do more, to be that example for you, so that you won't get off the hook so easily, because they're going to say, dude, I just did this. So now it's your turn. You know what I mean? So you're adding value when you're asking for help and accountability apart, even though you might have an ego going into that. Just understand that the person that you're asking, that you are giving that trust over to, is also appreciative of that, because it's going to help them in the long run.
Well,
too.
for sure. And if I could just interject one thing here, I've always been taught, or always heard, don't take counsel from somebody that's not in counsel.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it is. Like, if you're the end all, if you're the last guy, that's going to be an issue, because then your ego is going to get inflated. You're going to get off track, whatever. So if I'm taking mentorship from somebody, number one, I want them to have fruit on the tree. Number two, I want to know that they're taking mentorship from somebody too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not just hearing their own voice.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's big. Because I guess you could putting a lot of power and a lot of stress on that person to hold you accountable. If you're going to them from a mentorship role, not just accountability role, if they're not, like you said, in counsel, where are they getting this information from? Right.
Well, it's just like us too, with what you said, Wilson, about what we're doing here with Shepherds of Men.
Mm-hmm.
This has helped all of us up our own personal game.
Yeah.
Because now we realize, like, indirectly we're holding people accountable to things, or we're not counseling, but we have a message, we have a belief, we have a vision and a mission to change the mentality of men in this world. And if we were just listening to our own voices, we could screw ourselves up with that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not. We're in counsel with other people. We're reading the right books. We have our different things and we've upped our. I know I have, and I know y'all have, because we talk about it. We've upped our level of doing that because we understand the responsibility of feeding back out.
Absolutely.
You mentioned one of your favorite quotes. Was what you tolerate? Is that what it was?
Yeah, you become what you tolerate.
Become what you tolerate. 100%. And I've seen that just in the past month.
Mm-hmm.
And is it what I tolerated is really what my team became. Never again.
Yep.
So, but one thing I wanted to talk about was we talked about receiving that criticism from your accountability buddy, and that is, you're going to have an ego at first, because you're going to hear things that are going to challenge you, because that's what you're giving that person the power to do, is challenge you. And one of my favorite quotes is, be humble in preparation and save your ego for the execution. So when that person is challenging you, be humble. But when it's time to get shit done, save your ego for that, right? Because that's when you're going to need it most. Don't expend it when you're getting challenged by somebody, unless it's within the execution. If he's like, come on, man, one more rep, then yeah, man, have some ego, but like, I got this. You can't go in there and receive criticism and go, dude, I got this. It's just going to be ineffective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So humble, I'd say it all the time, humble in preparation, ego in execution. But I told you guys earlier in the week, the further we go down our individual roads to what we're trying to achieve, I'm learning more and more that success is really simple. And not to confuse the people listening, success isn't easy. Success is simple, because it's literally having the discipline and the switch of mind to do what is necessary to succeed. Easy is subconsciously not being successful.
Yep.
It's easy to binge watch, whatever, Amazon Prime or whatever you're watching on there, or Netflix and all that. It's easy to sit on your couch and watch TV. That's easy.
Yeah.
What's not easy is getting out there and achieving what you want to achieve, because it brings you outside your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Easy is not being successful. Easy is comfort.
There's a, we're talking about, and this is a little off of, I hope I'm not pulling you away from what you're about to say next, but the maturity aspect of that, and like when somebody can speak into you and it gives you that, for me, I'll just say, like, I'm a competitive dude, and I don't like doing things wrong. Like, just me personally, like, not against anybody else, but like me versus me, I like to be better every time, and I don't like when I don't get it right. And I know I shouldn't expect to have it right all the time, but I still want it to be. Like, that's my goal. Or my expectation is perfection, but I know, excellence along the way is probably more realistic. But if you can be humble in the preparation or be humble in the counseling, for me, I still get that boiling up where it's like I get a little pissed, But if I'm mature enough to direct that energy towards the execution, as opposed to just directing it towards, posting a bitch fest on Facebook, right? That's the maturity. Like, immature is, oh my gosh, da 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 da. Mature is internalize it, redirect it, execute, right? And then that's where that ego can come in a good, healthy way.
So humility allows you to fail. That's the best part about humility. Because I have the same problem that you were just talking about, Cam, is a perfectionist kind of thing. Like, I'm competitive. I like the perfectionist kind of thing. And there's times where, for instance, we went, me and Wilson went and did my very first, believe it or not, CrossFit actual, like, legit structured training thing that I've ever done. For me, I'm super competitive. I want things to be perfect and stuff like that. So I went in there and just went balls to the wall on what I was doing. Totally different type of workout. Kicked my ass, which I'm still going to work hard regardless. But sometimes you get into situations where, you hurt yourself by doing that. Mm-hmm. So humility teaches you how to fail. And failure is a momentary thing. It's not long term, but it's momentary. So if you have humility, then you can attack it and you can go out and do things and perfect it based off of learning from the failures that didn't work. Like the old, a real quick story that goes with this. I was reading a book and talking about a professor, psychology professor, went to his class and he said, all right, we're gonna do a project. He said half the class is gonna be graded on making a clay pot perfect. So if you make it absolutely perfect, it is pure quality, then you guys get an A. After that, it goes down. The other half of the class, the other 50%, is going to be graded on how many clay pots they can make. So you guys have to mass produce as many clay pots as you can make. I've got a number in my head, whatever it is. And based off of the number that you make, I'll grade you. So A through whatever. You know which side made the perfect pot?
The one that made the most.
The one that made the most pots. The one that made the most clay pots at the end had a product. Their last one that they made the other teams look like a third grader made it.
They failed over and over and over.
Because all they did was over and over and over, and they figured out exactly how to do it. Yep. And that goes with a lot of things. So humility comes to your counsel. And you made a good point. Your counsel shouldn't be a bitch fest. No. So pick your counsel, and you've said this before, I keep my circle tight. I keep my circle small. I have a lot of acquaintances, but my circle's small. And the reason for that is you got to be very, very particular about who you pick in your counsel, because if I can go to you and just bitch about everything to get things off my chest, and you just, oh yeah, whatever, sorry, it's poor, pitiful you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't. You're in the wrong counsel. So I think humility is a big thing, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I like that quote a lot: humility and preparation, because ultimately, as you're progressing, it's all preparation. Yes. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a great quote.
Quick plug for a book that you were just talking about, Failing. There's a book by John Maxwell called Failing Forward. I just want to throw that in there because I know we're talking about books all the time and people are seeking out. If that's a thing that you're working on right now, like how do I envision failure differently? How do I view that differently in my life? Failing Forward by John Maxwell. Yep. Fantastic.
So you made a good, valid point, and personally to me, me versus me is huge for me. And a lot of people, I think, probably fall into the same deal, is like you're so fixated on being perfect that you don't act. And there for a long time before we
Paralysis of analysis.
I was just getting so like in my own head about doing all these different things and never putting action to it. And if I would have just acted versus just thinking about it too much, there would have been a lot of opportunities at a young age that I would have been able to go do. And it was all about me in my own head because I wanted to be everything to go right and perfect and everything. Your first original plan never goes according to plan. It's always going to be fly by the seat of your pants and figure it out, but make sure that the pinnacle point of where you want to go, if you will, is set in stone. You know that that's never going to change. That direction, you may go all over the place. You think it's a straight shot, but man, you're going up on one mountain, coming down another valley, and you're just trying to figure out any kind of back road or whatever to get there. You might not take the highway to accept.
It's like when they have an accident on the interstate. Your GPS reroutes you on a different road. You're still going to the same place.
Yeah.
You know, are you going to complain? And that analogy. I mean, think about the difference between people that go, "Oh my gosh, we're stuck in traffic again,"
right,
versus the people who go, "Where's the next road I can turn off? Go a different way."
Mm-hmm. And be open to that, because I mean, sometimes whenever you're being personally accountable to something, and especially if you're like us, like me versus me is very important. Don't get so fixated on being that perfect person. Just go, and you'll become that perfect pot that you just talked about over all the different stumble blocks that you hit, or all the hurdles you hit your knee on and fall flat on your face, then get back up and do it again. Eventually, you'll be able to hurdle and not have to have any issues.
I want to say something just because, and this may not be for everybody, but we're talking about the making pots, and if you a bunch of them and you fail, the more you fail, the more perfect the pot is. You just said you'll become the perfect pot. From a spiritual perspective, I think about God molding you, being a potter. Mm-hmm. And if you think about that in your life, like you're just failing over and over and over and over and over, but really the end goal is to, how do I have a closer relationship with him or whatever your thing is. But in that particular analogy, that just kind of rung true in my head while you were saying it.
I think the most successful people in the world are really hard on themselves. And I think there's that we talk about personal accountability. And when you're not doing well, you're hard on yourself. Hell, even when you're doing really good, you're probably hard on yourself, And I think that's something I'm learning just recently. It's called imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're not meant to be in the role because you're not good enough. And that's something I've been going through recently. But Jocko Willink has a newer book, I think, that's coming out is out now rather. That speaks on that a lot. He's got a lot of great leadership books. Josh, you mentioned one of them, Extreme Ownership, is learning how to have that personal accountability, and even hold if you're run teams or whatever, if you're on a team, how to hold your peers accountable, how to hold lead up and down the chain of command. It's essentially taking the Navy SEAL leadership principles and applying them to business is what that book's about. He's got another book called him and Leif Babin both have write these books. Dichotomy of Leadership is how to take that accountability factor, that extreme ownership of what you do, and balance it so it's not so much one-sided, where you're just not always hard on yourself for that, or holding your peers or upper leadership or lower leadership accountable too much. Yeah. There is a perfect balance there. And then this newer book I've got to look into because I just saw it briefly mentioned on Twitter, but
Field Tactics or something like that.
Yeah. Leadership Tactical Guide or something like that. Field Tactical Guide or something like that. It looks really good. I've got that one on like a next day order for sure because that. But what I wanted to get into was, just from that I tend to coach on a not so much on a base anymore, but where my background was in gaming, was people would get into a game or new game or whatever and they'd be awful at it, and they would get smoked. And like Josh, yeah. So like Fortnite is still a very popular game, and there's a lot of money in it right now. It's not my thing, but there's a lot of money in that right now. And I know a lot of kids are coming up through there. So, me and a buddy of mine have been looking into starting up either an esports center or like a coaching thing to where we can help esports athletes harness a proper mindset when they're going into this and not just trash talk and be this toxic mess that's in the esports realm. Because as we all know, esports is becoming a big thing. So the biggest thing is that that self-accountability factor where I'm going to start playing this game, but I'm going to suck really bad at first. And that's everything. No one starts playing football or any kind of sport for that matter and is great. No one goes in the gym and has the perfect form at first, right? We just talked about repetition with the pots. You can't go in there and decide you want to start this new exercise and have the perfect form to where you're going to maximize to be able to get great results. It's the exact same thing no matter what you're doing, whether it's video games and the muscle memory it takes to do that, or if you're in the gym and the muscle memory it takes to do that, or if you're on the football field and the muscle memory it takes you to run the play correctly.
Or hell, being a husband or a dad,
Or
I mean,
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
same thing. You know, nobody's great at that. Like,
No.
like if somebody said the other day, is like, I think maybe your wife said it. Like, realized it got to a point where I was never going to be ready for kids.
Oh yeah.
Somebody
Oh,
said,
yeah.
like,
No
you
one's
ain't
ready
never
for
going to be
kids.
ready, bro. Like,
Oh, no.
but when they get here, you'll figure it out, and you'll
Yeah.
fail a lot. And same thing with your marriage. You'll think you're ready. That's why you decided to get married. You know, you're in that in love stage for the first couple of years. But then when it's not that in love stage, like you're going to fail a lot.
Yeah.
So it's okay. You just fail forward again.
Yeah. How do you handle those failures?
I think like you said though. I think successful people hold themselves accountable, and they're not easy on themselves. But don't get that twisted. They don't beat themselves up. There's
Right.
a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference
Good
there. I'm
translation.
not saying you had it twisted.
No,
but
no,
I'm
no.
just saying for the sake of the podcast is there's when we talk about humility, there's a certain level of humility, and you've got to be mentally mature enough to love yourself if you're going to beat yourself up.
Yep.
The last thing you need to do is try to hold yourself accountable and just beat yourself up and not have a certain level of love for yourself. And you have to. Humility comes with the ability to laugh. Like if you have humility, you can laugh at yourself.
Oh yeah.
And if you learn to laugh at yourself, like that's what's like. Okay, so we're doing all this CrossFit stuff, right? And I've trained. Obviously, I've done some of these moves just playing sports and stuff like that.
A couple times.
But Wilson, on the other hand, has not.
Nope.
He has not done most of this
Nope.
stuff.
Right.
So Wilson's back over there in the back, slinging this bar around, trying to get it. And what's so cool though is his form was god awful. Like it was really, really bad.
She didn't tell me that. If y'all would have told me that, I'm
No,
like,
no,
all right, let me
listen,
figure
I'm
this
not
out.
trying to beat you up.
No,
but
no,
what
you're
I'm
good.
trying to say is one of the things that I admire about you is you got in there anyways, and he was smiling the whole time. Like he sucked at it, but he was smiling because he knew he sucked at it.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, and he was just kind of like, he was like, oh, well, I know if I do it, I'm going to get better. But he
Yeah.
was able to, and that's where I think we miss it. Sometimes we're not able to have a sense of humor.
Right.
Like we went and ran. He came and ran with me, and he was like, "Man, he's so pissed at himself." And like you said, successful people tend to hold themselves accountable, and they tend to like not let themselves off the hook with stuff. And he's like, "It's my fault that I'm like this. I shouldn't have been sitting on the couch eating bacon all morning and stuff like that every day, and not getting the sleep that I need and everything, and blah blah blah." And I said, "It's great that you hold yourself accountable, but just make sure after you get done running and you're about to puke and stuff like that, you go, 'I love you, bro.'"
Yeah, absolutely.
To yourself, like, and that sounds cheesy as can be, but ultimately,
True.
you
Got
it's
to.
just like deposits. So you
Yeah.
do it yourself. So you were talking about making deposits, Cam, into other people before you can make withdrawals. It's the same thing with your own mind.
Mhm.
So you got to understand you have a relationship with yourself, and I
Yep.
think some people don't. And you said
That's
me
so
versus me,
powerful. Yep.
but you have a relationship with yourself. So if you make enough deposits, then you can start to make those withdrawals, and you can start to say, "All right, punk."
Yep.
Like, get off your ass.
Yep.
Like, it's time to go work out and beat yourself up a little bit. But it's because you know that you genuinely love yourself enough to not let yourself off the hook.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
I love that you mentioned that too, because for the just let's call it as it is. Dude, society is keeping you so distracted about what matters, and we've talked about this. I think in the House of Cards or one of the other episodes, talking about how you've got to set some time around to speak to yourself, some silence time to figure out who you really are. That way, you have that understanding, and then that love factor, what you said, and then you can just beat the shit out of yourself. Not in like a down, like a suppressing you, but more or less like, dude, you're better.
I expect more.
Always be expecting
Yep.
better, and every single day you're doing something more. And that's where personal accountability will come into play. But you got to know who you are first before you can just beat yourself up like that.
So-
and now, when I was in there, just so you say, I got gassed out. Like seriously, no. There's a freaking fan cycle, and they said you have to hit 18 calories burnt on this thing.
So he's
and I'm
humping
sitting
ass
over there, dude.
I'm like, oh my god, you're
I
gonna
don't.
be dead.
I
before you
had
even
no
start the next
freaking
circuit.
clue what was about to happen. So I'm guessing it, dude. I'm like, I see the calories burning quick, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm looking over at everybody else,
This ain't
and
so bad.
They're not doing nothing. So I'm like, yeah, I'm about to beat all y'all, And then I get done.
First time,
No
baby.
freaking kidding. I get off that stupid bike and I start to walk, and my legs were wobbly. I'm like,
Yeah, he looked
oh
like Bambi.
shit, this is gonna suck. Then when it did those boxes,
guys. I was fucking getting it.
Then you had to
man.
go grab the bar.
No,
Yeah.
then you had to go
Oh, shit.
grab the jump rope and do this jump rope
Double
stuff and
unders.
double unders. And I couldn't even jump worth a damn because my legs were gassed. And then after that, we had to do these clings or whatever that was
Power
called
cleans.
power clings.
Those were hanging cleans.
Hanging clings or whatever, and that was awkward. Everybody was like, "You got to put your butt out." And they were trying to tell me I was screwed up. I was like, "I suck at this," but okay, you know.
But he was smiling
But
the whole
yeah.
time. That was what was awesome.
Yeah.
He was smiling. He wasn't like sitting back there pouting. he was smiling, and like he's the type to be like laying out on the floor, and he's got this big like outline body mark where like some dead body was sitting there where he was sweating on the floor and stuff, but he's just happy as a clam.
Yeah.
Just like, man, you know.
Well, dude, I was going, and the main instructor, her name's Jennifer, came over there, and she was like, yeah, I think the next round, how many rounds are you on? We're supposed to do like 5 rounds.
You're supposed to do 5 rounds.
I just finished my 3rd round. I was finishing it while she was talking to me, and she goes, yeah, I really just think that you need to come over here to this fan deal and just start running.
She
and just
recognized like it's not going to stop.
I wasn't going to stop.
Stopping,
I was like, I'm bound and determined, and here's my wife, and I'm so proud of her. She's like killing it. I don't know if she's doing it right either, but anyway, I wasn't paying attention to her 100% on that. But she did it. She did all 5 rounds, and I'm like, dude, you piece of shit. You got better than this, you know. But anyway, I'm all about going back and
oh yeah, no,
it's
it's exciting. It's you versus you. That's a great way to put that. That's the best part about that. But I want to touch like really quickly on. I've had people that listen to our show that have asked me like, how do you know if you're growing? Like that's one of those questions.
That's a good question.
Yeah, and they're like, how do you know if you're growing? Like when does it get to the point where I guess the question they were kind of asking is like, when do you have it all dialed in? You know, and I was like, you don't. Well, that's what I told him. I said, dude, you don't. I said, this is the thing. When you're growing, it doesn't mean you stop making mistakes. It doesn't mean that you don't go out here and do things that you probably should not have done. It means when you do, you look back and go, stupid. I'll give you a really simple example. I walked into a facility. I had to go down to Orlando for some meetings Wednesday. I walked into a facility that's in there, and I was walking down through the path. There was nobody there that morning. It was really early in the morning. I came in early to look at some things. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's really quiet in there and stuff. And I'm walking down through this little pathway, and there's a piece of paper down there. Well, I walked past it. And just kept on going. I was sitting there, and I got probably 5-10 steps, and literally felt gravity pulling me back towards that piece of paper. And I was sitting here going, "Mother shit!" So I turned around and grabbed it. And that's what I was kind of the example that I give to people when they ask, like, "How do you know you're growing?" When you walk past a piece of paper, and instead of keeping on going, just forgetting about it, you can't help but think about the fact that I should have picked the trash up. I should have picked it up. And then you turn around and get it. That's how you know you're growing.
Right.
Because that's the personal responsibility that you take on yourself. And that's where you refine that mental maturity.
Yeah. Or as my 4-year-old would say, I should have.
I should have.
Guys, I want to wrap up. So I just want to kind of combine our message here. I think, like I said, there's 2 basic steps to success in any realm. And it's figuring out, just on a softer level, it's figuring out what you're not doing that you know you should be. Like you said, the gravity factor. I'm going to go back and pick up that piece of paper. Figure out and that's kind of basic, but as far as what your goals are this year, figure out what you need to be doing and start doing it. Step 2. And choose success.
If you haven't developed a mission statement, like we talked about in the House of Cards, that's a great way to find your center and who you are and review that to your point right there. Sorry.
I'm going to interject one more thing before you wrap because I know it's super, super important because I've been thinking about it for the last 30 minutes. The accountability piece of who are you holding yourself accountable to other than yourself? Specifically as we develop men, as we build men throughout this nation and throughout the world with our mission here, is your accountability to your wife, right? And your accountability to your kids. Those are the first 2 that you need to check. If you don't have kids, then you're off the hook on that one. All right? But then your accountability to society as a man. Like, hold yourself responsible to those relationships that are within your house, and then hold yourself responsible to your role as a man on this earth. And that will help you, I believe, if you start identifying that, if you realize that you do have a responsibility. I do have a responsibility to my wife. I do have a responsibility to my kids, and I do have a responsibility to my neighborhood and to my country. Then it's easier to go, I can hold myself accountable. Because if it's just you, you might let it off the hook. Right. But if you picture your kids and you let yourself off the hook, then I got to question you as a man.
Right.
So,
anyways, I just want to make sure that.
And last
thought,
it's good. And then that way you can finish. To go off of that,
it's a good episode.
Yeah, this is really good.
To be continued.
And I mean, to go and caveat toward what you were just saying is adding to that is when you go to ask somebody to help, make sure you have that mental list of like, okay, do you have the fruit on the tree? Are you doing what I want to accomplish? Are you, those parameters, not just go blindly in and go, hey, can you keep me accountable? I mean, anybody can keep you accountable when you think about it, but it's just like, make sure you're going in the avenue or in the arena that you're because it's just like what we were talking about with the marriage counseling that somebody had a divorce. I mean, that'd be dumb. Now, you can get their perspective and you can take their perspective and what they have to say with a grain of salt, but don't take it by heart, because if they have not had a successful marriage, then it's probably not going to, they don't have nothing to go off. Now, if they got a divorce, dumb, they did stupid stuff when they were kids, and then they have now a 25-year relationship with somebody, then that's something that you can actually go off of. But I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, I mean, the message there is very simple. It's just take advice from people who have things that you want. You don't have to choose one person and take their entire life advice from. Yeah. If you know a wealthy person, you may want to get financial advice from them if they have what you want. And that's it. Maybe they don't have a successful marriage. Don't take advice from them in their marriage. Take advice on a financial aspect. Have someone else you take marriage advice from. Have someone else that's a great dad that you can take dad advice from, or mom and take mom advice from. I know we have female listeners. Choose people who have what you want and seek that mentorship in that only.
Yeah, and allow them to speak in those arenas only. Exactly. Everybody else allows all these opinions, and it's just stupid.
Yeah, it's just knowing, it's protecting your sense gates, like all four of us have heard before. It's knowing when to accept that advice and protecting yourself from the advice that you don't need. But the biggest thing is the accountability. Have someone else that's willing to hold you accountable to what you're trying to achieve. Hold yourself accountable to what you're trying to achieve. And in order to do that, make sure you're watching your game footage, right? Make sure you understand where you're tracking along those goals. Keep track of everything. Hold yourself accountable to what you're trying to achieve. Set your goals, break your goals down in bite-sized pieces. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? How do you chop down a tree? One swing of the axe at a time. You're not going to be good at everything at first. You are going to fail, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up in the very beginning, like you guys said. Make those deposits into yourself, or if you're the accountability buddy, make those, or if you're a coach or whatever, make those deposits into your guys or yourself, or your friend. Then take the withdrawals, right? Earn that buy-in, earn that respect first. Then you've earned the respect to be able to bust somebody's chops. So, guys, with that being said, thank you for listening. Thank you for all the support, the text messages, the direct messages, the input, and really kind of what you guys wanted to hear. Please continue doing that, man, because we love talking about and brainstorming stuff that maybe we haven't thought about that you guys have that you do want to hear. I know we got some DMs of having the wives on. That's in progress. Just to let you guys know, that is coming up very soon. We're actually really excited to have them in here and get some feedback from a lady's perspective, because we all have very strong women in their own respects, just like we're. Everyone at this table is strong because we hold each other accountable. Our women are the exact same way. And I think in a lot of times that in a lot of different ways, they're stronger than us in certain things. And I'm actually really excited to have them on, man. So again, follow us on our socials so you can keep up to date, mindset, motivation, all that kind of good stuff, gut checks especially. And thanks for joining, guys. This has been The Movie.